Hey guys, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here this evening to join me for this very special edition of Facebook Live with Lisa for this really important topic: how to live a better life while managing depression. This is a topic that is super, super close to my heart, as I am someone who has been managing depression for a really long time. And so I'm glad you're here. I hope that the information I'm going to share with you this evening is helpful to you. Please jump on and say hello. Let me know where you're from. Give me a wave. That'd be great. I'm super excited that you're here. Um, so, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Lisa Quirk. I am someone who gives people simple hacks to help them live better lives. And while it's super important to know who I am, I think it's also really important to know who I'm not. So, w- I am a biohacker. I am an educator. I have been in education for sorry about that, more than 20 years. I'm a daughter, just celebrated my dad's 81st birthday yesterday. I'm a mom of two beautiful grown daughters and a nana to an amazing 9-year-old grandson. I'm a cancer survivor and I'm a depression patient. Who I am not is a physician or a therapist. So, the tips that I'm going to give you this evening, the hacks that I'm going to give you, come from my own personal experience and the experiences of people who are close to me who have also managed depression in their lifetime. So, what is depression? I'm going to read this definition to you so when my eyes go to the side of the screen, you'll know why. This definition is from the American Psychiatric Association. Depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think and act. Depression causes feelings of sadness and or loss of interest in activities you previously enjoyed. It can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease a person's ability to function at work and at home. There are several signs and symptoms that you may experience, some mild and some more severe. Again, it's important to note, according to the American Psychiatric Association, that symptoms should be present for 2 weeks for a diagnosis of depression to be given. So the signs and the symptoms are these, and again, I'm sort of reading, so if my eyes go over to the side for my notes, I apologize. Feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest in activity or pleasure in activities that you once enjoyed, changes in appetite, maybe weight loss or gain, not related to dieting, trouble sleeping or maybe sleeping too much, loss of energy or increased fatigue, increase in purposeless, that's really hard to say, physical activity. So things like hand wringing and pacing, or slowed movements and speech, which might be noticed by others, feeling worthless or guilty, difficulty thinking, concentrating, or making decisions, and thoughts of death or suicide. It's also important to note at this point that there are some medical conditions, such as thyroid problems, brain tumor, or vitamin deficiency that can mimic the symptoms of depression. So make sure that you see a doctor to have those things checked out as well. It's also important. See, here I go back and forth. I'm going to apologize in advance. I may do that several times. This is a situation where I want to make sure I have accurate information for you. So I do have a set of notes that I'm referring to, so I get things right. So it's important to note that being sad and having depression are not the same thing. Um, for example, people experience grief when they lose a loved one. But grief and depression, while they have some things they share that are in common, also have two important differences. One of those is that with grief, the feeling tends to come in waves. While you will be really, really sad, but then you will remember positive experiences of the person you lost. And in major depression, these things last for or the symptoms last and pleasure is decreased for up to 2 weeks. So that's an important distinction. Also, in grief, the self esteem is usually maintained, while in depression, there are feelings of being unworthy. There are feelings of being there are feelings of self-loathing. So that's really an important distinction. So let's go ahead and get started with tonight's hacks. Hack number one: find someone to talk to. This is super super important, guys. Whether it's um, family and friends are a good resource. There's someone very close to me that manages depression, and she says that there are two people on the planet that can talk her down when she's experiencing a depressive episode. And so those are the two people that she reaches out to. So perhaps a religious or spiritual leader or a counselor. I will tell you that definitely one of the benefits of seeing a counselor is that while your family and friends love you, they are also not always objective. And so a counselor would be someone who would be objective and would be able to help you while keeping emotions out of it. Your family and friends get very emotional because they get sad when they see you sad. They get upset when they know you're struggling, and all they want to do is make it better. And so sometimes those emotions can get in the way of things. A second hack is to boost your brain power. As I mentioned earlier, there's a diminished ability to focus and concentrate. It can affect memory, also our ability to process. So it's really important that we take steps to keep our brains working and functioning. Some things you can do are play like games. Those puzzle games are really good for helping you like focus and concentrate on something. I don't know if you've heard of Luminosity, but this is an app that has games, and the games are specifically designed to increase brain function. So those are really good. And there's a free version of that. So it's not something that you have to pay for. Something else that I would say is, because it's hard to remember things sometimes while you're managing depression, is to write everything down. It's super, super important that you do that, because you will forget a lot of things a lot of the time. Um, Something that's been really helpful for me is a home system such as Amazon Echo or Google Home. My mom, while I was going through chemo, which produces similar effects, they refer to it as chemo brain, because it also messes with your ability to concentrate and focus, and with the memory. So one of the best gifts my mom ever bought me was an Amazon Echo. You can set reminders on there. You can create to-do lists or shopping lists. You can set alarms. It does just all kinds of wonderful things. In fact, recently I bought an Echo Auto, which is something that Amazon recently came out with. I'm a person who tends to remember things while she's driving, and so this has been very helpful for me to be able to add to my to do list or my shopping list, or set reminders while I'm actually in my car. So, hack number three is dealing with people. And this can be really tricky, because with depression, there are a lot of times where you just want to hide. You just want to kind of go into hermit mode, and not see or talk to anyone. And that can be really difficult, because you need to still nurture your relationships with people. Um, but you also want to find a balance there. So, um, let me give you an example of something that happened in my life. I was going through a particularly rough patch, struggling with some major depression issues at one point, and I had a friend who was very, very, very concerned about me. But she also didn't really know or have a lot of knowledge about depression and what it's like. And so she would tend to call or sometimes at the same time call and text me repeatedly, and I would not pick up and I would not respond because I would be in a space where I just needed to not interact with people. And so at one point, we had a conversation, and she said, "You know, Lisa, I really am concerned about you, and I want to be able to help you, but I don't know. I don't know how to support you." And so it's important to have conversations with the people in your life because a lot of them don't know. And once she and I had that conversation, um, she was she understood how to support me, and I felt more supported and understood by her. So it's really important to keep those lines of communication open. It's really important to interact with people. Okay, it's great to go hang out with friends, go to events, spend time with your family, just be out in the world. You need social interaction and social contact, but it's also okay once in a while to hermit. You just don't want to do it on a regular basis, right? And shut yourself completely off from the world. So it's really important to find that balance and figure out how to deal with people. And the best way to do that is just honest and open communication. Share with them what you need in order to feel supported and understood. And hack number four, getting things done. This kind of goes along with the boosting the brain power. It's really important that you develop a plan to get things done, because there are days when you just don't want to do anything, and so it's really important to have a plan in place for those days. Create a to-do list. Again, you can use your Alexa or your Google Home to do that. Um, I read on a blog, someone managing depression created a hashtag today I will challenge for herself. And so that every day she would hashtag today I will, and then she would say what she was going to do that day. And it helped her kind of be accountable to herself, to get at least that one thing done. I set daily goals and intentions every single day for the very same reason. It helps me be accountable to myself. And sometimes it might be necessary to go public with that. So maybe, a tweet or a Facebook post, hashtag today I will. And then it's out there in the world, and it helps you be more accountable. So that's really important. Something else that you can do is chunk tasks, especially if you have a lot of things that you need to get done. This one's really, really helpful. And then within that, uh, you can implement a 5 minute rule. So there are several things I need to get done today, but I'm going to chunk them up. And so maybe the first one is the most pressing or the most important one on the list. And so set a timer for 5 minutes and get started on that task. And when that timer goes off, if it's too much or it's really overwhelming, just stop and come back to it later. There's no need to stress yourself out or deal with feeling so overwhelmed, because that is not going to help your situation at all. Um, Go on to something less pressing or less taxing, and do that one instead, and come back to the other one later. I also read on a blog someone who was I want to get this right, so I'm going to read this off my notes, who was currently preparing for an interview. And so the first chunk would be, after 15 minutes of researching and note taking, then they would give themselves 15 minutes of mindless Facebook scrolling. The next task might have been to make and eat breakfast, and then they might spend 30 minutes on online shopping. The next one to get ready, and then once that was done, they would maybe spend 15 minutes watching TV, and then spend the next half hour making sure everything was sorted and ready, and then knowing that they can come home and snuggle under a blanket and watch crap TV, which I just absolutely love. crap TV definitely has a place in your life, especially if you need something mindless to do for a while, just to, take your mind off of what else is going on in your life. So that's super, super important. And number five, hack number five, reward yourself. And that was kind of what was evident in that last chunking piece that I was just sharing. The thing that's important to remember here is this does not have to be a huge, big reward, right? Like it doesn't have to be a cruise or a new wardrobe or any of those kinds of things. But it can be a little reward, and it could be for something that some people might see as little, but it might be big to you. So for example, if getting out of bed is really, really a struggle for you, and it can be if you're managing depression, there are days that you just don't want to get out of bed. So maybe on some particular morning you're struggling, and you finally make it out of the bed, and you can reward yourself with your favorite Starbucks coffee, or order in breakfast, or meet a friend for brunch. Do something that makes yourself feel good. Reward yourself for doing that. That's super, super important. Um, yeah, it just doesn't have to be a big thing, like maybe you get something done on your to-do list, and just take that break and scroll through Facebook. It doesn't have to be a big deal. So the next hack, and before we go on with this one, I want to reiterate that I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. The information I'm sharing with you tonight, again, comes from my own personal experience and the experience of those in my life. And so the next hack has to do with prescription medications and natural solutions. So let's start with prescription medications. I was doing some research the other day for another live that I'm preparing, and it I found some research that I believe, and I'm trying really hard to recall, and I can't recall the numbers, so I apologize for that. But what I read was that antidepressants are the most described prescription medication in the United States. So that tells you what how many people out there are dealing with this on a daily basis. And I was on Prozac for more than 10 years, and it has its place. It was very, very helpful for me. Um, it it really helped me when I needed it the most. And I'll share with you another experience that I recently had. Actually, I had a conversation with my counselor that I see once a month, and someone very, very close to me has been dealing with some really, really severe depression and anxiety, and was going through a really, really bad depressive episode. And it was one of those situations where she was contemplating suicide. And so it was a really big deal. And because she is someone who's so close to me, I was having a conversation with my counselor around it. And she said that when someone is in that place, there are two things that she recommends. One being therapy. I mean, that probably is a gimme since she is a therapist and a counselor. The other being prescription medications. And um, she said that um, in a case like that, that is that severe, that she would actually recommend prescription medications as the first course of action. So prescription meds, I mean, they are important and they do have their place. I am right now someone having gone through chemotherapy and cancer treatment. I am in a place in my life where I am sort of reevaluating the role of prescription medications in my life. And so I have stopped taking my Prozac. But again, that is a decision that needs to be discussed with the doctor. That's not something that you should just jump to, without any thought or without any, yep, there it goes again, without any medical advice. Instead of prescription medication, prescription antidepressant, I have begun using CBD to help manage my depression. And again, you will see me reading from my notes because I want to make sure that I get all of this information right. Um, there is not a lot of research out there about the effects of CBD on depression. Most studies have been done on animals. Um, Now, recently, with this signing of the Farm Bill, that industry is opening up. And say hello to my crazy cat. That industry is opening up, and so a lot more research is beginning to happen, and more studies are taking place. It does appear to have benefits. There she goes again. I think she may have been into something she shouldn't have been. I apologize. Um, but some of the research, some experts believe that CBD's potential benefits for depression are related to its positive effect on serotonin receptors in the brain. Low serotonin levels are likely connected to depression, and while CBD does not increase serotonin levels or boost them, it may affect how the brain's chemical receptors. I'm reading this because, again, I want to get it right. Your brain's chemical receptors respond to the serotonin that's already in your system. There's also a 2018 review of his existing studies that concluded that CBD has anti-stress effects, which may reduce depression related to stress. And so, as mentioned, this is an area that's still being actively explored and researched, and I'm sure that more will be coming down the pike, so to speak, as researchers begin to understand how CBD works to manage depression. Um, One thing I would say that is if you are thinking of trying CBD to help you manage your depression, is that you do your own research. Um, Make sure that you find a um, sorry, I've lost my word. A respectable, reliable product. Okay. With the signing of the Farm Bill and the boom going on in the CBD industry right now, there are a lot of very cheaply manufactured products out there that may not help and could even possibly cause harm. Some of the products out there actually contain THC, which, as you know, is one of the active ingredients in marijuana. Um, if you're someone who's not bothered by that, that's not a big deal. But what has happened to some people is that um, they didn't realize that the CBD oil they were taking contained THC, and then they pop positive on drug tests with their employment. So that's important to note. So look for a product that is broad spectrum. I can never say that. THC free, organic compliant, and non-GMO. Those are also all important things to look for when you're researching and trying to find a reputable product to use to help manage your depression. So, just some final thoughts and statistics. Again, according to the American Psychiatric Association, depression affects 1 in 15 adults in any given year. 1 in 6 people will experience depression in their lifetime. Depression is more likely to appear in women than in men. Um, in fact, some studies show that 1/3 of women will experience a major depressive episode in their lifetime. Typically, depression is um, found in the mid-teens to early 20s, but it can strike any time in your life. What's super, super important to know is that there is help out there, and there are ways to manage depression and live a happy, fulfilled, great life. So, if you are someone who's struggling, please reach out. Please look for some help. You can find me on facebook.com/Lisa R. Quirk. My website, lisaquirk.godaddysite.com. Leave a message, send me a message, leave a comment. If there's any information that you would like, if you have any topics that you would like to see in upcoming Monday night episodes of Facebook Live with Lisa, and I will see what I can do to make that happen for you. I hope you have a great night. and a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for joining in.